In this tutorial, you'll learn a simple and effective technique to create smooth fade in and fade out animations for any UI in Unreal Engine. We'll use widget blueprints, basic animation tracks, and input handling to toggle the UI cleanly. This method is fully reusable. You can apply it to main menus, pause screens, dialog boxes, or any interface element that needs polish and clarity. I'm Rumbod, and if this helps your project, please consider subscribing and dropping a like. Starting from the third-person template, open the content drawer and right-click in an empty space. Go to User Interface and select Widget Blueprint to create a new widget. Let's name it WBP_menu. Once it's created, open the widget blueprint. Inside the designer, drag in a canvas panel and make sure it's set to fill the screen size. Inside here, I'll drop a size box just to demonstrate the main menu in games. Okay, we anchor this one to the middle and set the alignment to 0.5 by 0.5 to position it exactly in the center. Then we change the X value in the details panel on the right side to 600, or maybe let's just change it to 300 for Y and 600 for X. Then inside here, we'll drag and drop a canvas panel to create a cleaner menu layout. Inside the canvas panel, we'll drop an image. We'll stretch this image to full size inside the canvas panel. Then we change the brush color to a slightly gray tone and set the alpha to 0.2 to create a transparent background for our main menu. And now I'll drag and drop a button into the menu. This will serve as a sample button for our main menu. Then I'll drag and drop a text element inside the button to display something like exit. Type exit for the text and change its color to black. Now we have our basic menu. Next, we need to create the animation. I click on the size box and then on the animation section. I'll name this one Fade Animation. Fade In, and the other one will be Fade Out. So now we have both. In the Fade In animation, we add the size box and click the button next to it to track a property. At first, I was going to change the visibility, but sorry, not that one. We need to scroll down until we find Render Opacity. Yeah, we click on this one. We set the timeline to 0 and change the render opacity value to 0, then click on Add Keyframe. As you can see, render opacity will appear here. The visibility that I clicked earlier was not the correct one. So now we see the render opacity down here and we set it to 0. Then we move the timeline to 1 second, change the render opacity to 1 and click on Add Keyframe again. Now we have the fade in animation. So we should do the same thing, but in reverse for fade out. We click on the size box, then click on the little tile. Wait, not that one. We just add a track. We go to Render Opacity and add a keyframe with opacity set to 1 at the start. Then, on the 1 second mark in the timeline, we change the value to 0 and add another keyframe. Okay, nice. This works. We now have both fade out and fade in animations. The next thing we have to do is run them. Let's go to the Graph tab. Inside the graph, in Event Construct, we drag and drop our fade in variable and connect it to play animation so that it runs when the widget is created. We compile and save. Everything looks fine here. Next thing we have to do is go to our content drawer, then open the third-person blueprint and the blueprint for the third-person character. Inside here, what I want to do is just create an input. A keyboard input, for example. I want to toggle my menu with the H key on the keyboard. What I'm going to do next is create the widget inside the class. I'll select the WBP menu and then promote the return value to a variable. I just named this one something like menu WBP, and after that, we need to remember to add it to the viewport. So once we add it to the viewport, we also need to get the player controller and use it to set the input mode to game and UI. This makes sure the mouse is active as well. From there, we can also enable show mouse cursor and set it to true, just to make sure we can actually see the mouse when the widget is shown. Okay, one more thing. Before we actually run this from the H key press, I want to drag off from the pressed execution pin and connect it to a flip-flop node. I'm using a flip-flop node here because I want this to act like a toggle. The first time we press the key, it will open the menu. The second time, it should remove the menu from the screen and invalidate it. To do that, I first need to access the menu WBP variable. I right-click on it and choose Convert to Validated Get. This makes sure we only proceed if the menu is actually valid. That way, if it's null, nothing happens and the game doesn't crash. Now from this menu reference, I want to trigger a fade out animation. So I drag from the menu, look for the fade out animation, and connect it to a play animation node. If the widget is valid, this animation will play. Otherwise, we skip it. And make sure to connect the menu WBP as the target input for this animation, or it won't work properly. Now we'll add a delay node, set to 1 second, to match the length of our fade out animation. This helps everything stay in sync visually. Next, we remove the menu widget from its parent using remove from parent, making sure it's no longer on screen once the fade out completes. Then I just copy and paste the get player controller node again so I can reset the input mode to game only. This ensures we return full control to the gameplay. I also need to set show mouse cursor to false-ing. This hides the cursor so it doesn't stay on screen when the menu closes. Now I'll connect the remove from parent node and hook everything up properly. Once done, I compile and save the blueprint. That's all we need. Let me test it. I'll bring the window over. When I press H, the menu appears. Press H again, and it fades out just as expected. Fade in and fade out. Clean, simple, and very easy to implement. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing. It really supports the channel and helps me keep making videos like this.